Awesome. Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of the Growth Roundtable. I'm so excited to be talking to the wonderful Ben Lund, founder and CEO of Rise Marketing Group. Ben is a 14-plus year digital veteran and a former Googler. Throughout his career, he's worked at Yahoo, RKG Ad Agency, and Google. What excites Ben most is seeing firsthand how their marketing strategies can drive business growth for their clients. And Ben is also a total delight to work with.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. There's nobody better to be talking about SEO and PPC and how to make Google work for you than you.
Yeah, it's fun. I've been doing this since, actually even longer than 14 years, since 2005 or 7. I was at Yahoo. So yeah, it's been a while, but the crazy thing is I'm still not sick of search. I still love it. It's still fun. It's always changing every month, every quarter, every year.
And a lot of new changes. So we're definitely going to be digging into that.
Always, yes.
Yeah. So if anybody's not familiar with me, I'm a growth marketer, founder of Polaris Growth Studio. And one of my favorite things to do is help founders make their big ideas become reality, which brings us to today. And that's why we're digging into search and PPC and SEO and all of the good stuff. So let's jump into it. Some folks may wonder, what is SEO all about? What is PPC? How do you answer those kinds of questions?
Yeah, really good question. So it's different strategies to be featured on the Google search engine results page. So the whole intent behind each is to be visible for people searching for your products and services. And you have two different options for that. PPC, pay per click, is you're paying Google for every click that you get to your website, and you focus on very specific keywords that are best for your business. And that's really good. And that's pretty much, I would say, if anyone's looking for growth in quarter, like I want leads this month, next month, this quarter, focus on that because you're going to transact with Google and you're automatically going to get these clicks. SEO, it's also being featured on the search engine results page, but it's a longer term play, and it's earning Google's trust to rank you on Google for targeted keywords. Both strategies are great, and a lot of our clients actually do both, but it really depends on what their goals are, and SEO is a long-term play. But if you stick with it, it will probably be your most profitable channel, but both can work extremely well. But that's what the difference is, PPC and SEO. Different positioning on the Google search engine results page. One, it's a transaction directly with Google for pay for that traffic, and the others is just earning that trust with Google.
Awesome. Such a great explanation. I sometimes describe SEO as, organic visibility. It's art and science. You're really trying to understand your user and provide the right content to them at the right moment, educate, all of that, educate, inspire, all the good stuff. Whereas ads really do the same thing, but in a different way. It's more like it's a little bit closer to the sale because somebody's going to click on an ad when they're ready. Mm-hmm. So it can be interesting, how you balance those.
And it's also, just to add real quickly to that, there's a huge benefit that's a byproduct of SEO. So creating content to rank on Google, all that is good, but by nature of creating all this content on your site, whether you're paying for this traffic or they came through social, they're going to see you as an authoritative in this space, and that's going to boost up your stickiness on the site as well as conversion rates. So a lot of folks don't even think about that. They just think, I'm going to write content to rank on Google. Good. But actually what you're doing is you're really building an authoritative, be an authoritative source. So that's also a huge benefit that's often overlooked, but just naturally happens.
That's a great call out. So true. Do you find that this is a little bit off topic possibly, but do you find that there is a kind of difference in how consumers, perceive the trustworthiness of content, whether it's an ad or organic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have any data to back it up, but I believe that SEO is just more trustworthy just because everyone knows. I mean, most people should know that the top 3 or 4 listings, they say ad and they know it's an advertisement, but Google's really good at matching qualified advertisers to relevant search queries. So they have to have relevancy there. So they understand it's an ad, but if it's a good fit, they still may transact or just take note of it. But when it's your organic on the listings, I just feel like there's way more trust there. I don't have any data to back it up, but I just feel that that's the case. And even with myself, my own browsing behavior, if I'm looking for whatever types of product or service, yeah, I click an ad, great, they offer this. But then if I stumble on them in like deep Google search results and I see like, wow, they really know this expertise, I'm going to have a higher level of trust with them.
Definitely. I feel the same way. That's part of why I asked, because when I'm just shopping, like I might click on a bunch of different ads.
Mhm.
Whereas if I'm kind of researching and in that more of a high information buying journey, I end up leaning more into the organic results.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about well, do you want to start with the Google marketing event and kind of takeaways, or do you want to start
Yeah.
with kind of questions that we got?
If there's any questions, we can get to those now, and let's definitely jump into the marketing event because there's a lot there.
A lot. Yeah.
Spoiler, all AI, but
Exactly.
yeah, we can get to that in a second.
Cool. Well, then I want to ask a couple of kind of, um, I don't want to call them basic questions because they're not really basic, but kind of introductory questions, let's say. So, one of the questions that I got was, how do you determine the right time to
Mhm.
start with PPC ads? And
Yeah.
I think this is really difficult, and I'd just love to hear your advice since you're such an expert in this space.
Yeah, definitely. So make sure you have a great landing page experience. So your site is pretty much baked. It'll never be fully baked. Even our site's never fully baked because we're always iterating off of it. But let's say you feel good about it. And also, if you're just starting a business, just make sure that you know your value proposition. You have an offer, and then you have mechanisms to capture information of these individuals in case they don't transact or send the lead, just to make sure that everything is in as good of a spot as it can be at this moment. Then you're probably ready for paid, but just don't jump the gun because a lot of folks can just get excited like, oh, I have a product, I want to start advertising, and they're like, oh, great, let's start spending money on Google, and they're like, wait, where are my conversions? But then they think of like, oh, maybe I didn't really do my research of what's my value proposition,
Mm.
where do I stake out in the competitive market, what's my offer. So just making sure like your site is really ready for that traffic because you're paying Google for every click that goes to your site. So you just want to make sure it's in as good of a spot as it can be. And also that another thing that's super helpful is that you have some level of budget. Now, everyone's budget's going to vary based off of what their goals are, but I would set aside a budget that you can invest in Google for at least 2 to 3 months just to get some baseline and some good learnings because yes, you're going to start to get clicks to your website right away, but you're going to start to get learnings of which keywords convert, which ad copy works the best, what landing page. So don't just do ads if you're like getting all excited, like, oh, I'm going to launch 2 weeks of ads. Like, well, what are you doing with that? Like, just take a step back. So that's what I would recommend. Just make sure that you are ready for it because you're paying for this traffic and you want to make sure that it's as effective as possible.
Absolutely. I think we were talking, this has probably been a year and a half ago now, but we were talking about kind of the importance of having a solid organic conversion rate. And I think you said something like there's no point in driving a bunch of traffic to your website if you're not able to convert it at least 2.5% or higher. And that is just a huge waste of money. So 100% plus one, what you just said. And it doesn't have to be the most complicated data analysis in the world. Really just look at the number of leads you're getting versus the number of folks who have visited your site. You can do it in Google Analytics for free. And if it's not above that, let's say 2%, if it's not above that at a minimum and ideally above 5, that's at least the benchmarks I use, then
Yep.
you're not ready for ads. Would you
Yes.
agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm really glad you brought that up. And sometimes folks will come up to us and be like, oh, we want to start doing ads. I'm like, okay, great. Like, can we what's your conversion rate? How many customers? Like, well, we don't really get too many right now. I'm like, well, why are you going to send more people to your site? Figure
Yeah.
that part out and then start driving people to your site. So yes, that is a huge requisite that should be considered.
Awesome. Awesome. So another question that we heard was, how long does it take to see the benefits. I think you mentioned PPC, you can see results quickly, but you're going to need at least a couple weeks for it to learn and probably, let's say 2 months to
Mhm.
really get consistent.
Yep.
I'm seeing in SEO land, like in the ballpark of starting to see results in about 3 months, but more in 6 to 12 months. Is that
Yep.
kind of aligned with what you see?
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, SEO, you're going to see very little progress in the first 2.5, 3 months. But once you get to that 3 month part, you're going to start to see some level of results. And there's a couple of things that we take a look at is, so even before you start getting the clicks, and your clicks are going to start to increase, let's say 3 months and beyond. And I'll give like some general ways of thinking about it. But even before you get that click, you want to look at some key indicators that those clicks will start to happen. So for example, you can use a lot of great tools out there. We really like SEMrush. Is as you're doing SEO, as you're producing high value content, how many keywords are you ranking for? Today, maybe you're ranking for 100, but if you keep on producing content every month, you're like, oh, now I'm ranking for 110, 115, 120. It doesn't mean that you're getting those clicks yet, but now Google's starting to rank. And then also looking Google Search Console and see, are your impressions increasing? And impressions is just basically if someone does a search on Google, your listing is there. It doesn't mean that they clicked, but they're there. So early indicators that we really like to look at in the first couple months before you get the clicks. Are you starting to rank for more keywords? Is your average position starting to increase? Are your impressions starting to increase? Because if you focus on those, the clicks are just going to inherently come. And then 3 months and beyond, then you should start seeing an increase in traffic. And I really like to share it with clients. It's almost like investing in an annuity or like compound interest, where it's like month over month, the gains aren't that exciting. They're really not. Maybe 5% increase, 7% increase. But what does get exciting, if you get what's called 7% increase month over month, 7% increase on 7% increase on 7, and it's like that starts to see a little like exponential curve. And then by month 12, 24, 36, then you're like, okay, this is good. But it can be easy for folks to get a little disheartened. We're like, I had 100 clicks my site last month and I did all this work and I have 105 or 107. Like, stick with it because compounding is a real thing.
Definitely. I'm so glad you said that because at the early stages, it can really feel it can feel really incremental, but over
Yes.
time, it does make a difference.
Yeah. And I hate to say like, oh, just have faith. Like it sounds like so bad, but you do have to have faith. Just have faith that you're putting out great content, and whomever you're working with, or you're doing it yourself, you're doing the research, and it will happen. It will happen.
Definitely, 100% agree. All right, so we've got a couple of questions around kind of local SEO versus local ads. Local SEO and local PPC, let's say, versus nationwide. And I just love to hear from you. Like, how do you? I have my own hypotheses. How do you
Yeah.
think about when it's right to focus on local?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're a small business, that's probably your only market. If you're a service provider, small business for geo area, definitely focus on local because we work with attorneys. So, for example, we work with some attorneys. We're in Massachusetts, right outside the Boston area. They can only work within the jurisdiction of Massachusetts. So if we write some great content for them and they get all this traffic from California, Nevada, it's really not worth it for them unless they figure out like some like referral networks that they can build up and sell these leads to, or whatever they
Yeah,
want to do with them. But for most small businesses, they have to focus on local. And there's a lot of ways to do that. I mean, Google Business I always say, is like the fastest way to get local visibility. Be super active on that. And then even in the content that you're producing, think of geo-targeted pages that you want, or anything that's nuanced to the local area. But for most small businesses, local is good. Or even if it's a larger business, maybe they have franchisees throughout, having a local strategy on a nationwide level, if that makes sense.
definitely. That feels like a really good segue to one of the learnings from the Google Marketing Live event.
Yeah.
So, something that stood out to me, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, is that almost all brands need to start thinking of themselves like creators. That seems like how Google is moving. And
Mhm.
that content discovery, even organic content with AI, makes the search experience different. So if
Yep.
you're thinking about one of the examples that they used, and this is why local SEO comes into play, was, fun things to do with kids around Dallas. If you've
Mm.
got good, solid organic content, you might show up in that AI
Yep.
result. And that's kind of a local SEO, local
Yes.
play
Yeah.
that, you could juice maybe with local ads. But even if you're a local business and you've been saying, I don't really need to do SEO because, it's just not that important for me.
Yeah.
Now, with the way that Google operates and the way they're anticipating consumers will use it, it becomes more important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super interesting. So yes, you need to have that. Definitely think of yourself as a content creator. Um, and if you don't have content that answer these types of search queries, these long tail search queries, which I'm going to get into in a little bit, you're not going to have an opportunity to rank. And Google actually mentioned something that's super interesting, that they are actually seeing most of their search growth from long tail search queries. So if anyone's listening, what a long tail search query, it's a very long search. So as you just mentioned, like best places to go in Dallas with kids, and you can even add to it 5 and under or whatever it might be, versus fun things to do in Dallas. That's more of like a head or a torso
Mm,
word. But what Google's seeing is more and more searches are that long tail search, because search is getting much better. Maybe 10 years ago, if you put in that long tail search query, there wouldn't be content to answer that or an AI tool to answer that. But now people are searching that, and even shopping, instead of men's running shoes, men's 10 and a half running shoe, wide foot, high arch, like whatever it is. But that's how people are searching. And with Google's AI, um, which anyone listening now, they just rolled it out in the US within this past week. So if you do some of the searches, not all the searches, you'll see like an AI response, and it's to help answer those very long tail questions. And then they're even including organic links that people can go to the sites that may be relevant to that. But yeah, you need to have content. People are at search is not going to go away. People are going to continue to ask, but it's getting much more in-depth and descriptive. So yeah.
definitely, 100% agree. And, to address the elephant in the room, there probably have been consumers who moved away from Google into ChatGPT to get some of their answers. However, the changes that I'm seeing in Google search with the ability to see sources of data
Mhm.
feels really valuable. Google will get better at their AI results. And I could imagine, I'm not saying that this will definitely happen, but I could imagine a swing back towards Google because they just have so much information and they make it so easy to discover new content,
Yep.
especially with YouTube and all the other visual and channels that they've got. So
Yep.
I'm I think there was probably a wave of folks who said, "Oh, with ChatGPT, I don't need to focus as much on SEO or any
Yep.
of that." I don't believe that's true anymore,
I know.
if it
Yeah,
was
it's
ever
really
true.
interesting. Agree 100%. I think Microsoft came out of the gates really strong.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, ChatGPT. A lot of people are like, oh, it's way better than Gemini and Google or Bard. But yeah, now I think it's going to swing the other way. And then folks asked me even just yesterday, is like, well, what does this mean? Are ads dead? Is SEO dead? And just to kind of piggyback what you're saying, so one, ads definitely not going away, because that's Google's lifeline of revenue.
Yeah.
They are absolutely not going to move away from that. That'd be a very poor decision. I think there's a lot of smart people like Google that understand that. So ads aren't going to go away. And actually, within the AI results, they're going to start to show sponsored listings, including shopping. And then in even SEO, I think they don't want to move away from content creators or make them upset, because if they're not valuing the content that's produced, people are just going to stop producing content, and then the search engine and the internet is not going to be as impactful and valuable. So as you just mentioned, within the AI results, they're actually putting some type of citation or relevant article. So from an SEO perspective, even though it gives you an answer, you still have an opportunity to rank and earn those clicks. And a lot of you, I don't have data to back this up, but I expect that a lot of users may not trust the AI response completely, and they will want to also do their own research before they make that decision. And
I expect that.
those links.
Definitely, definitely agree. I expect that to happen. And it also, it to me feels like it's a really good opportunity for non-technical SEO because the way that Google is able to understand and interpret content now and understand search intent and relevancy a little bit differently, it's not as much, the 90s and early 2000s of keyword stuffing. That's been dead a long time, so don't do that. But now, even if you don't necessarily use the exact key phrase that somebody's searching for and maybe don't have a perfectly optimized page, it seems possible at least that if it's relevant good content, you might still get the at bat for that viewer or that click or whatever. And it wouldn't have been possible before in a non-generative landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. Google's algorithms are getting smarter and smarter, and you don't have to rely on all just the old school techniques. Still way half of just like all the technical markup still helps to some degree, but what's most important is content and having a good site experience. And I believe, no one knows the true ranking parameters that Google puts in, but even just like site experience, if Google's sending you traffic and you have a great site, a lot of great helpful content, and then Google sees how people, if they're bouncing, are they staying on, are they engaging, how are they doing so, and they're just going to continue to rank you higher and higher, seeing some of these user signals, because at the end of the day, Google wants what's best for the user. What's best for the user is best for Google, because they're going to continue to use Google versus ChatGPT.
Exactly right. All right, so I'd love to kind of dig a little bit more into some of the trends that we saw in search and ads in the Marketing Live event. So one that I'm kind of interested to hear about is from you is this idea of using photos and videos to search, and I'm just wondering, like, to me that seems pretty radical because I'm not using it very much, but I'd just love to like kind of hear your take on that and any recommendations you would have for brands who are considering leaning more into supporting searchers who are using photos and videos.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's and Google's been starting to roll out images with sponsored text ads, which traditionally has just been very black and white, just a couple of headlines, a couple of descriptions, and then that's it. But now you can upload logos, you can upload different images, and Google likes it because it's much more eye-catching and folks will click it more so than other listings. Higher click-through rate means more revenue that they're going to get, but then also a higher share of clicks that the advertiser can get. So absolutely append images to your search text ads. And also, like, one big topic of the Marketing Live event is Google's giving a lot of creative tools for advertisers and brands to use, let's say, for example, within a Performance Max campaign where you don't necessarily need a graphic designer to create some of these. Now, graphic designers are insanely helpful, absolutely, and I'll never walk away from them. But if you're a scrappy small business, you can just upload brand guidelines now within Google or soon to be, and actually just interact with, like, give me an image of person running because you're selling running shoes or whatever it is, and like, oh, take out the tree, and like, at least what they shared, I don't think all of it's live right now. It seems pretty cool that you can create some custom assets on the fly. That also
seems amazing. Yes, exactly. I mean, what they showed with their ability to create creative is going to change the game for businesses who have really small budgets. So if you're doing e-commerce or if you sell a physical product, even B2B, pay attention now, because if you can be the first mover and kind of start to gather that data, get some gains, prove to Google that you're a good ad account, I think you set yourself up for success. And the tools that they have shown are incredible. Like, if you use Canva, for example, you're familiar probably with some of the AI things that they rolled out. It's like that on steroids. I mean, upload a picture of your product, they'll remove the background, they'll put it on an on-brand different background and make it like move so that when your ad shows up, you've got a 360-degree view of a shoe and everybody else just has these ugly, boring.
Exactly. Very static images. It's awesome. It's pretty cool. So anyone who's listening, be a first adopter, just play around with it, because anytime there's change in the industry, the ones who benefit is those who start testing it right away. They're not the laggards, and they're going to be months, quarters, and years ahead of everyone else.
Definitely agree. I wanted to ask about Performance Max because I get questions like, what is it? What makes it special? All of that. Could you kind of demystify that for
Yeah.
listeners?
I know Performance Max, like such like a weird, opaque names like Performance Max. We're gonna do everything. Like, what is? Because otherwise, traditional campaigns are like search, got it, display, video, got it. But what's P Max? Performance Max. But yeah, so it's an ad format that you can advertise on Google. It's a campaign type that you can show your ads across all of Google's owned and operated properties. So that's search, that's display, that's Gmail, that's their discovery feed. If you have an Android phone, you'll probably know that. It's also on YouTube. So it's just like, think of it as like, and shopping. So it's a one-stop shop for just to be featured everywhere, but they call it Performance Max, not just due to the reach, but it's very much focused on conversion. So as long as you have solid measurement, whether it's your e-commerce and you're tracking sales or leads and you're tracking leads, as long as you have that feedback loop, you'll tell Google optimize towards a conversion event, either to maximize it or even a specific return on ad spend. Because with Performance Max, you can't just say, optimize towards a $2 CPC. It doesn't work like that. It's all based off of conversion optimization. I think that's where a lot of the name comes from. So hopefully that takes some of the mystery out of this Performance Max.
It definitely does. They talked about it so much. I mean, I think one of the things that they said was that if you use PMax with in your search campaigns, they're seeing like a 27+% performance improvement, which is insane. If you could get that, that's incredible. Yeah. And it's just it's a fairly easy thing to set up. So
it's super easy. And it makes a lot of sense. If someone's doing search, maybe they clicked on your search ads, but then Performance Max, then they see some of your ads across all of Google. And then we're like, wow, they're really an authority. Like, I'm going to keep them in mind. So it works. And actually, one other quick thing about Performance Max is they're even opening the ability to bid to maximize profitability. So not revenue, but profitability. Wow. We'll see how it rolls out. And I'm sure there's a lot of data integration there to upload like margins and everything, but super, super interesting.
That's incredible. Yeah, if you're in e-commerce, especially, that is just like a game changer. You can start to think about strategy differently. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to just kind of check in and see what, if anything, we haven't talked about yet related to either the Google Live, because we've got a couple minutes left, whether it's the Google Live event or just, SEO and PPC more broadly, that you want to make sure that our audience knows.
I would say I'm an advocate on both paid and SEO. I would say everyone should be doing SEO, and I know it's hard and I know it takes time, but invest in it just because it's your long-term future-proof bet that you don't have to pay Google, but you're going to gain down the road. And then also I would say, which impacts both paid as well as SEO and social and every channel, email marketing, make sure that you have solid data measurement. So you understand what's happening on your site. You mentioned those conversion rates and benchmarking yourself. What is my conversion rate? Is it 2%? And then does it get to 2.5%? Like, continue to play around with that, because the more that you understand your customers and how they're interacting with your site, all channels are just going to improve.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that I'm interested to hear if you agree with this, but one of the kind of pieces of advice that I often give, whether we're talking about ads or we're talking about SEO, is that Google is smart and getting smarter. And the way that it's getting smarter is trying to replicate how humans engage with content and what we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And so the ideas of being, you can be intuitive. Relevancy is always important. Relevancy and accuracy are the name of the game now. And if even if you don't have data, if you know that your consumers are asking specific questions related to how they buy products like yours, then just answer that. Even if you see no search volume, even if you don't see it as a good, it's not a good keyword for ads. Just, trust trust your knowledge and trust that as Google gets smarter, you'll win.
Yeah. That's a really good, yes, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because so many times people can get distracted by search volume and keyword difficulty and this and that, but they know their customers better than anyone else, and they know what they're asking, types of considerations, and regardless of what SEMrush says that's impossible to rank for or not, answer those questions, because understand, and it really comes down about understanding your customer.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. It's definitely something that we share, and also why I love working with you so much. So we're at time. I just want to thank you, Ben, for spending your valuable time to share your wisdom with our audience. And if anybody wants to connect with Ben, his website is Rise. Is MK. You tell the website.
RiseMKG.com, or just Google over there, Rise Marketing Group, and happy to have a chat. But yeah, Kinsey, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Loved it. Talk soon. And thanks everybody for being here. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks.